Jason, and this is Lightroom. Today we're going to go over some statements and loops. First we're going to start with the if-then statement, go on to the if-then-else, the switch statement, and then go on to some loops like the while, for loop, and then we're going to go into a little bit of branching. An if statement, you would have to give a Boolean variable. Basically, if we say Boolean smell, I don't know, I can't think of anything else, seemed good enough for me, and let's give it the true value. And an if statement, you basically write this and then smell, and if it's true, then it prints whatever you put inside of these curly braces right here. So we're going to do a system.out.print line, and let's say dog. Dogs kind of smell. I'm not a big dog person. And let's see what happens. Well, as you can see, smell is true and it prints out system. But if dog was false, it won't print anything. Let's change this to false and let's see. As you can see, it doesn't print anything out. This is when we get on to the else. On the else, you would basically go outside of your curly braces and write else, throw in some more curly braces, proper syntax, and what if it comes up false, then this is the default on what it would come out as. So let's say system.out.print line print. Okay, there goes that mouse. I don't like laptop mouses. And let's say deodorant. That's probably spelled wrong, but I don't care. And let's print this. As you can see, deodorant comes out because, well, it has a smell, but it's a bit better smelling than a dog, isn't it? And well, you can do a lot more on this. This is just a simple, basically you put your if statement, you declare it, and then you put your Boolean value right in here. But you can also do this with integers and stuff like that. So if you went int smell, now let's say the smell is a 1, and then you would basically say if smell equals 1, then dog. Let's just say this is a smell good because dogs don't smell good at all. And then let's run it and you get dog. And then you can actually do an else if, and then throw this in some braces, and what it does is it says else if this isn't right, then check this one and see if this one matches it, and then so on. You can do a lot of these. And let's say smell equals 10, because deodorant smells a lot better than a dog. And let's run it. Let's change this to a 10, and as you can see, deodorant. But what if you wanted to categorize a bunch of them? You can basically just keep going on and on and on. Equals 9, curly brace, and then let's copy that, Control C, Control V, and let's say flower. I don't really like the smell of flowers, but a lot of people do, so. And then let's change this to a 9. And as you see, it says flower. And the way it does it is it checks this one, and if this one is false, then it skips it and goes on to the next else if, and then checks that one, and then so on and so on. And if you just wanted to give a default else, you could just do this, throw in your curly brace and say Control V, Control V, Control V. There we go. And say variety, because I don't feel like typing a bunch of stuff. And if I change this to a 5, we should get the variety, or 59, either or, both work, right? And you get variety. And that's how the else if. But that's a lot of typing for something like that. And there's actually a simpler way of doing this. And this is what we call a switch statement. And the way a switch statement works is it basically works the same way as this, and what you would do is go switch, switch, put smell, put your variable inside of here, throw out your curly braces, and you would set each one as a case. So we had case 1, what was it? Case 1, case 1, and the way it says is it says if smell equals 1, then print this value. Now let's go ahead and create a string. Let's call it value, and let's make it equal nothing. We're going to give it its value right here and say value equals dog. And when you do these, you need to break it, and that's a default keyword in here, and what it does is it breaks it and says I found what I need, move on. And let's do another case, and we had case 9, and these don't have to be in order. I'll do case 10 first then, and say value equals deodorant. And then we break it and move on to the next one. Case 9, and then say value equals flour, equal break, and then you could do a default. And default is basically anything left. Basically, it's what our else was. And let's say value equals variety, and then break it. And then we need to print this out on the screen, right? System.out.print line, so on. Say you, here we go, you smell like a space plus sign, because we're adding two strings together, and say value. Now our value is, let's say 10. I just got out of the shower, I'm feeling good, got deodorant on. And it says you smell like a deodorant. And if I was to change that to a 9, you smell like a flower. And what would happen if we actually took these breaks out? Well, this is what would happen. Just change this to a 1 and run it. You smell like a deodorant. No, you're supposed to smell like a dog, right? Well, that's because it doesn't never break, and it actually goes to the next one, runs it, and then throws that deodorant in there. Let's see. I'm going to just show you an example. System.out.println stop here, please. And let's see if it stops there. Stop here, please. Nope, you smell like a deodorant. Well, if we break it, stop here, please, and it stops there. You smell like a dog. And our next one is, our next thing I'm going to teach you is the whiles. And while loops are pretty nifty because you can actually get a good count. Let's change this back to int. Let's change this to a 0. We'll just keep that there. Might use it later. And a while loop basically sets up the exact same way, except for it has certain guidelines that you have to do. And the way this works is saying while x is less than or equal to, you can use any, or you can say while x is equal, which if you don't increment it, it's going to be an infinite loop. So we're going to say while while smell is less than 10, system.out.print line. I hate that mouse. I'm going to turn that off later. And we're going to print out smell. And then we're going to increment it, or else we'll get a loop that never ends, plus plus. And this is the basic way of smell. Smell. Plus plus. And when we run it, as you can see, it starts counting. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it stops, but that's because it checks it, prints it out, then increments it, and then it comes back around, checks if it's still the same, increments it, so it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it stops. If I was to take this, Control X, Control V, put it right here, as you can see, it would start at 1, but that's because it increments it and then it prints out the value. The next step would be the do while loop. Say we wanted it to print the first value, and the way you would do this is you would basically take this part, cut it off, stick it here at the end, Control V, and throw a do right here. And what this does is it runs it once, no matter what, and then it checks the value. Whereas a while loop checks it and then runs it. This runs, then checks, and then so on and so on. So let's run this one, and we get the same value. But let's say this was equals. Smell equals 10. Smell does not equal 10, right? So we're going to check it. It prints 1 because it prints that on the screen. If we was to take the while loop, Control it, and put it right here with the do, Control V, and try to run it. It'll just skip over and go on to the next thing.